In this video, we'll take a look at the Rega P1 turntable. It's an entry-level belt drive turntable that looks really slick and is considered by many to be one of the best entry-level turntables. So if you're new to the vinyl hobby or you're just getting back to it and you're looking for a new deck, you want to check this video out. Hit the like and subscribe buttons if you still haven't. Now let's get straight to it. The Rega P1 or Planar 1 turntable is a simple, easy-to-use deck. It sets up in under 30 seconds, which is something you don't see a lot with turntables because they have a bunch of moving parts. It comes with its own slip mat and stylus, so no need to buy those separately, plus it has built-in RCA cables. You'll still need to connect this to a phono preamp, and you can get one from Rega as well. The System 1 package, which Rega Philippines sent for review, includes the I/O amplifier, along with a pair of kite speakers, and spoiler alert, they are excellent. But this video is about the P1 turntable, so let's get back to it. So I unboxed this and set up the entire package in my bedroom, and true enough, it didn't take long. The P1 is light but feels substantial. There is no cheap plasticky feeling on any of the components except maybe for the RCA cables, which, well, they're made of plastic anyway. More on those later. It comes with a dust cover to protect the platter and tone arm when not in use. To turn it on, there's a power switch underneath the turntable body. That means the surface of the deck itself looks very clean and minimalist. It's very aesthetic. Once I got them all hooked up, I started listening to some of my favorite records from 2021, including Julian Baker's Little Oblivions. It's a dense indie rock record, which is a departure from her previous reverb-drenched guitar albums. Now, I've heard this played on a lesser beginner turntable, and the tendency is for the sound to be a bit muddy, and personally, I think it's because the songs in the record are so mid-range dependent, meaning your playback system has to be able to reproduce mid-range frequencies in a clear and detailed way to hear it at its best. And this is exactly what the Rega P1 was able to do. On heavier tracks like Faith Healer, it was easier to pick out distinctions between the vocals, guitars, bass, and drums. Now, comparing this to a cheaper turntable, the Rega P1 had an openness and a depth to the sound. Like, it wasn't being cloistered by the hardware, which I find is a telltale sign of a cheaply made tone arm and stylus. When describing the playback sound of the Rega P1, a word that comes to mind is accurate, which also happens to be a word that you don't often hear associated with beginner turntables. And that's exactly what makes the Rega P1 one of the best and most recommended beginner decks. The only thing I didn't really like about it were the built-in RCA cables, which I mentioned earlier in the video. I like using my own RCA cables because that means that I can customize them to the length needed for my setup, and I can also use certain cable brands and jacks. But since this comes built in and you can't change it, well, it's not ideal. It would have been better if it just had RCA jacks that you can plug your RCA cables into. But then again, this is a beginner deck with a focus on it being a plug-and-play turntable, so I get it. It's not a deal breaker at all. So the Rega P1 sounds great and looks great, but how much does it cost? You can get this for just under 20,000 pesos or around $400, which can be a bit much if you're just getting started. So maybe this won't exactly be your very first turntable. If you have a smaller budget, for example, maybe you want to go for like a Motorino or a Simula, or maybe even an Audio-Technica LP60, which we recommend. But if you already have a beginner deck and you enjoy the vinyl collecting hobby and you'd want to step up to something that sounds better and looks pretty damn classy, the Rega P1 should be on your shortlist. So that's it for this short overview of the Rega P1 turntable. If you liked what you saw, head on over to the Rega Philippines website as well as their Instagram to place your order. Once again, please hit the like and subscribe icons. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.